So people want me to not speak up. That seems to be their advice for everything. Just shut up, just shut up, just shut up. I'm going to bring up a situation that happened recently. Gabby Petito disappearing. When Natalie Bollinger disappeared, I did everything I could to speak up, to tell the cops what I knew. I did everything that I could. Now, why is it that people are pissed off at Gabby Petito's boyfriend for being quiet? Most of the people that I know that were witnesses that didn't want to speak up, they didn't want to speak up because they didn't want to be targeted. Mandy Hughes did not want to be targeted by these stalkers that you guys pretend don't exist. You pretend that I'm making them up in my head. Meanwhile, there are other people who are experiencing this too. Nearly everybody who spoke up for me got a lot of fucking flack. But you know what else? Most of those people treated me like shit because a bunch of fucking internet nut jobs got a hold of them to harass them. That was not my decision. So when these people are stalked by these internet nut jobs and the Bollinger family and their friends in real life, when they're having to deal with this shit, and you guys want to pretend like it's a figment of my imagination, I show proof. I show screenshots from my phone, from my Facebook, from my Messenger, from my text messages, from these people. My computers are full of evidence of the people who have done this, not just internet stalking. These people do this in real life. That's something that everybody's advice seems to completely bypass. You know, if you'd stop talking on the internet, people would stop harassing you. No, they don't. People that I know in real life, I have to deal with this shit from. It's not just on the internet. If it was just on the internet, it would not be a problem. It's the fact that it has affected every single part of my life. It has affected my finances. Has it affected my ability to see a doctor? It has affected my medical insurance. It has affected my credit score. It has affected all of my finances. People keep saying, why don't you move? I have moved 40 times. If you've ever moved, it's stressful and it's expensive. Now, I know that a few of my internet stalkers do live here in Chapel. I'm aware that there are people in Chapel who do watch my videos, mostly because they hate me. For good reason. I told their fucking stories because their stories were a part of mine. The things that they did, how it impacted my life. Candace Bondurant was not expecting to get harassed by her landlord and by Officer Michael Beard. That's not something she expected at all. I made the 911 call to try to get Rochelle Shelley Campbell safe. Given the situation, it was the right call. Instead of coming to talk to me, Officer Michael Beard harassed Candace not once but twice. Once on her way to take her kids to school, and once where she worked at the hospital. This is a small town of Haxton, Colorado, folks. The guy I've been staying with for the most, he's hardly ever home, but it is his home. And he does catch flack for it. They have threatened him. The same thing with Candace Bondurant, having to be afraid for her kids. The sheriff of Chappell, Nebraska, did the same thing to this man. Right after Natalie died, and the detectives in Natalie's case asked me to go to Boulder, Colorado. They asked me to go there. And they asked me to try to get them some information. And I did the best that I could. Through repeated assaults, through people hitting me in the head over and over again. People keep telling me to start a new life. I have moved a lot to try to do that. I've been with some very dangerous people as a result of that. Not that these people don't try to be good people, but when you're on drugs, you don't make good decisions. When you're an alcoholic, you don't make good decisions. And that's scary for me. And maybe, you didn't scream at me the whole time that I was there, like with Shannon Alvarado. She only screamed at me twice when I tried to talk to her about her alcoholism. Other than that, I was meek as a mouse. So her boyfriend ended up taking the brunt of all of it. And I do mean all of it. It doesn't matter who you are screaming at like that. When you're doing it for 8 hours straight, it is scary not just for the person that you're screaming at. It is scary for everyone around you. I'm aware of that. I scream a lot. I scream especially when I'm scared. Now, for those stalkers in Chappell, because I don't really leave much. I don't want to be threatened or harassed or intimidated. And I certainly don't want to be assaulted again, because Dual County Sheriff's Department isn't going to do anything about it. Just like I'm not even allowed to get a hold of them to try to turn in the crimes against Thomas Payne today. He lives here in Chappell. Or Crystal Worley. Or my Aunt Mary. I'm not allowed to do anything. I've been internet stalked since well before Natalie was killed. The internet stalking started almost as soon as I left Virginia in 2016. I'm pulling up my pictures on my phone so that those internet stalkers from here in Chappell can let these people know, hey, there's people that are threatening towards you, and it's a good thing to fucking safeguard yourself. God, the fucking anxiety from this. All right, so these people who are doing the threatening, let me pull their names up. One of them calls herself Marissa Flowers. It claims that she lives in Los Angeles, California, and she's from Phoenix, Arizona. Now, this is a fake profile. Her profile is not real. She's pretending to be someone else. It's called catfishing, I believe. The other one calls himself Tyler Lindsay. He claims to live in Chester, Virginia, and be from Monroe, Louisiana, and he claims to be married to Melissa Flowers. And these are two of the people who are being extremely threatening, unless I am incorrect, which we'll see. Let's read the type of shit that these people have typed. In addition to sending me a whole bunch of crap. There's also one called Gracie, and there's also one whose name is in kanji of some sort. It says, this guy is a stalker, Sean Schwartz. He's still is one. This girl died, Natalie Marie. She's dead because of Sean Schwartz. Anyway, and this is shit that I get a lot. What her friends and family did to me is horrible. They started stalking me and threatening to kill my friends and family. Do you know what that's like? And you can't go to the police because when you try, they blow you off. That's what's been going on here in Chappell, Nebraska. Thank goodness. I might have a lawyer now. Sue them in civil court. See, they typed, you made her want to die, and she did. She made me want to die. Her friends, her tweaker friends, wouldn't leave me alone. Natalie lied when she said that I stalked her. When I went to Virginia, it was at her request. Matter of fact, she attempted suicide because I wasn't there fast enough. I went there to save a life, people. And it wasn't just hers. There were other people too, like Mahalia Jean-Pierre. What they did to me starting in October of 2016, nobody should have to go through. The people who were coming at me weren't being fucking assholes about me supposedly stalking her. They pretended like I raped or molested her. They pretended like she was some 12-year-old and I was having sex with a little kid. I never had sex with her, ever. We never kissed, ever. Anyway, Marissa typed creepier, Tyler typed because of you, Marissa typed creeper, Gracie typed who got ADD, Tyler typed she is dead because your actions, Sean, so on and so forth. But the other thing is, like, I have to deal with this shit not just on the internet, but in real life. I'm going through, and this guy doesn't like homosexuals, apparently. He keeps typing the FAGGO. You guys know what that word is. I don't have to finish it. I don't even want to spell it out. It's fucking horrible. You know, I lived in Boulder for a lot of years. A lot of my friends were homosexual or bisexual. That includes Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger. They were both into boys and girls. Matter of fact, according to Maddie Boa, her and Alicia Bollinger had a relationship for a while. A lot of our friends are gay. I am fine with gay people. I fight for their rights too. You have no idea. My entire life, I have been picked on for being gay, and I'm not even gay. So imagine what it's like for these other victims. Let's see. I'm going through my screenshots. Now, this guy, Tyler, he's like, you making me famous for posting my shit. I love the publicity. And then more of his anti-gay crap. A lot of it, actually. It's in most of my screenshots here. Let's see. Again, it's Marissa Flowers. And Oh, they're posting up addresses of people here too, by the way. This one right here is in Radcliffe, Aurora, Colorado. I'm not going to give you all the information, but the fact is that they did post it. Um, let's see. I'm trying to get to the part where it's, oh my God, they cuss a lot, but not nearly as much as me. I'm a filthy mouth son of a bitch. All right, so some of the people from the Chapel area that they're after: Matthew Cotton, let's see, Sammy Dwayne Gatewood. He's not in Chapel, but he used to live here. Jason L. Jepson, he used to live here. Crystal D. Worley used to live here. Matthew Cotton used to live here. So those of you internet stalkers from Chapel, please let those people know. Douglas Cowden, he's a child molester and he's dead. My friend Rihanna, who died last year, that's the son of a bitch who molested her. He died years ago, thank goodness. Bradley Carl Dollinger. That's uh, that's a long story. That has to do with Lana and Amanda Ingline. He used to be a friend of theirs, and then they kicked him out when they invited me up to Montana. They were claiming he was all sorts of a terrible person and they were never going to talk to him again. And he was taking advantage of a pregnant woman with kids and so on and so forth. And they had told me something about she had bought him a car. And then while I was there, they were trying to get me to pawn his car out and just not go back to Colorado. Like, yeah, just don't go back. I'm like, I got to fight this court stuff. I have to. Anyway, there's also more people on here. Sammy Gatewood is a friend of theirs as well. But Brad Dollinger, when I had to go back to Montana to get evidence that Lana and Amanda had stolen, well, Mr. Dollinger, this supposedly horrible person whose car they were trying to get me to pawn out and buy for me and just not go back to Colorado, well, he's the one who brought my bag in, or my backpack. All right, another person, Jeffrey L. Witcher, used to live here. Jerry Lee Sparks used to live here. Jeffrey L. Witcher, so far as I know, he's a good man. As far as his kids go, I like 3 of them. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Jerry Lee Sparks, she's also associated with Lana and Amanda Ingline. Thomas E. Payne, he lives in Chapel as well. People need to let these folks know that there's internet nut jobs, my internet stalkers. They've never stopped this. Now the problem is that I was never allowed to defend myself, not in court, not to the media. When I tried to show them evidence, they didn't fucking care. They didn't want to look at it. You want to talk about news? There's no such thing as news. They had a narrative and they fucking ran with it. It's immoral and illegal, but only if you have money. Another person that they're after is Mary Catherine Schwartz. So I will probably let her know just shortly. Also, my older brother, Eric Schwartz. He lives homeless in Boulder. So here's the thing. I've had to deal with shit like this since over a year before Natalie was killed. Because of shit like this, not just on the internet, mind you, but people doing these things to me in real life. I film everything that I can for a reason. It's better to have my camera ready and on when something happens. Because people aren't going to stop when they're assaulting me to let me turn on my fucking camera. Like, hold on a second, let me turn on my phone. What happens when you do that? They slap it out of your fucking hand. Now you got evidence, but you got no access to it. Like when I was assaulted by Robert Warnick. And he's friends with Leslie Snell, who works for the Dual County Sheriff's Department. She's the 911 operator here, too. I'm not allowed to get a hold of the Dual County Sheriff's Department. And I am not allowed to call 911 here because she might be on duty. The 3 people that I was trying to turn in, I was vocal about it. I spoke up on YouTube, live. And everything that isn't live, it has important information in it, and it is saved. The other thing is, these people need to look out for their families too. I've been looking after Jerry's kids for years. I don't mean the organization, I mean Jerry Sparks. I also looked out for Jeffrey Witcher's kids and Thomas Payne's kids. I looked out for all of these people the best that I could. I used to work for Doug Cowden. So did my older brother Eric for a time. Roofing. At least it's easy work, especially when you got to carry the shingles up on a ladder. It doesn't get too hot until you throw down the tar paper and it's pitch black. And then it gets so hot you have to pour water on it so that you can walk on it without slipping. Doug Cowden was a con artist who ripped off a lot of people in town. He also molested Rihanna. Stiffed me for a lot of money, a lot of labor too. On the bright side, I taught Doug's daughter, his real daughter, the sleeper hold when she was 3 years old. She almost knocked me out. Literally within 30 seconds of me teaching her, she almost had me knocked the fuck out. And near as I hear, she's still a badass. I'm glad for that. Doug had asked me, he said, Sean, you took martial arts. I know you and your brother were in ninjutsu. You know some tricky shit. I said, well, kinda. He said, do you know anything that would keep a 3-year-old from getting stolen? Some martial arts trick that a 3-year-old can do. Well, not so much. But I can tell you from experience that even a 3-year-old can perfectly execute the sleeper hold and knock out a grown man. She knocked out everybody in her family. She knocked out her sisters with the sleeper hold. She might have knocked out her mom, I haven't asked. She for certainly knocked out Doug. He told me she knocked him out 3 days. 3 days in a row, she knocked him out while he was sitting on the couch. He asked me to teach her something. And then he didn't like what I taught her. I taught Jerry's kids some of that too. And they're not the only ones. You know, even when I was a kid, I didn't mind sharing that knowledge, how to defend yourself. But also, I got to understand that I'm not allowed to use those techniques. I personally can't. I will be the one to get in trouble. I will get called mentally ill, and I'll be carted off. Especially if you're homeless, you have to worry about this. Anybody can assault a homeless person and get away with it. You know how horrible that is? Now, some of the people on here that I'm able to get a hold of, I'm going to do so. And the one who I know at least some of their family members, I'm going to let them know. A lot of folks think that if I just keep my mouth shut, this stuff will stop. Not the shit in real life. Not the shit I have to deal with people I actually know. People who knew me in real life, who always hated me, well, they're going to use this against me for the rest of my life. They're going to go with the narrative that was allowed instead of the truth. Because I was called mentally ill, I was never allowed the rights that you pretend that I have. You have any idea how many times I call nicely before I call a place up and scream? It's nobody's job to investigate the crimes against Sean Schwartz. But if Sean Schwartz defends himself, it's the end of the world and we need to lock him up. We need to pump him full of pills. In the prison, they put Haldol in everyone. Haldol injections, Haldol pills, Haldol. Yet none of the doctors in the Lincoln's Correctional Center were willing to put me on drugs. They said they don't see that I need the medications. Of course, then there's the doctor that was chosen by Dual County. They wanted me to be on medications. Do you know what those medications do? They make you fucking crazy. After what was done to me in Clearview and at the hospital in, is it Louisville or Lafayette? That's Boulder County, Colorado. God, you guys should have seen me on those drugs. There's a reason you don't put that shit into somebody who doesn't have an issue. The whole time I was trying to speak up and show evidence. The only time I was able to get that evidence into the hands of the cops is if I broke the law or if they pretended that I broke the law. But I needed to be able to have copies for me so they couldn't accidentally lose it. And they all do. There is a recording device that I had that Dual County Sheriff's Department has not returned yet. Legally, with all electronic evidence, they're supposed to send it to North Platte, but they didn't. Nathan SP typed, I noticed you said something about not being technically savvy. Are you able to screenshot things? Yeah, mostly. I've got over 10,000 screenshots probably by now just on one of my computers. I have well over 1,000 conversations by now with other witnesses. The screenshots and the trying to record stuff, I did have to learn all of that shit after Natalie was killed. I mean, I just barely learned how to make videos on my YouTube or on my Facebook before Natalie was killed. Matter of fact, I made quite a few videos. It was a fucked up situation, but it wasn't just involving her. A lot of people pretend that all of my videos and all of my posts were about Natalie. No, they weren't. They were about national epidemics, about how innocent people are harmed over what a pretty girl thinks, and how the homeless and the disabled are the easiest victims because nobody listens to them. And I explained to a lot of people, hey, they're not going to listen to me unless you go in with me. And the people who said that they would go in with me just procrastinated and shuffled their feet. There were people who were involved with it starting when I left Virginia, like Miss Peaches, for example, Kayla Trujillo. She was immediately involved in the situation. Also, Joshua Hebert. It's actually Hebert, Hebert. It's French, French Cajun. He was involved almost immediately. Also, the same thing with Kayla's boyfriend. His name is Raja. When people came down on them, I was the one who was punished. The cops wanted me to be Natalie's killer. They didn't bother with Joseph Michael Lopez until after I was released from Clearview. If they'd have looked at that shit to begin with, they would have caught Joseph Michael Lopez way earlier. The news. The cops didn't tell the news stations that they found Natalie's killer until the 9th of February of 2018. But they told me on the 8th of February. And I can tell you exactly where I was. Winchell's Donut Shop in Longmont, Colorado. I was waiting on Mark Townsend to show up. And I was helping out a lady from Colorado who was obviously having issues from the drugs that, well, she had been through a similar issue. She had tried to tell on her perpetrators, and they took her to a nut hatch. They injected her with drugs that fuck you up. They injected her with Haldol. And when I talked to her the first time, she seemed batshit fucking crazy. But the things that she was saying, well, I knew what county we were in. They sent her to a different county to inject her with these drugs. Because if you're in a different county, you're in a different jurisdiction and you can't turn in the officers who did these things. And then they released her and she had to go back to Boulder County so that she could get her vehicle. Imagine that. And this lady is originally from Nebraska. It's pretty screwed up. There's a lot of other technical things that I don't know how to do. Like as far as editing videos, I don't know how. I've been trying, but there's parts where I'm just trying to cut out just a little bit. I just want to take out the part where it says somebody's phone number or their address or my social security number, I should say, because these are my calls. It's my evidence. But I don't know how to do that. It ends up making one video that's short, or it does it the other way. It's a video that's long, but it skips out. So basically, for one phone call, I might have to cut it into 10 or 15 different videos because I got to pull it up to just that part. And I don't know how to do that with the YouTube, so I have to do the video just on my computer and then try to transfer it over. And sometimes that doesn't work, or sometimes it's extremely long. Sometimes it tells me that there's an error downloading my video. So I delete the download and try it again, and then it won't do it because it's a double or a duplicate. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do. Now, there's also like my autism advocate. She's been trying to help me. Nobody will listen. With the Nebraska Autism Society, People don't actually give a shit. The news stations in Lincoln and Omaha, if there's a fundraiser for autistic people, like let's say the Autism Society of Nebraska is putting on a benefit. They're putting on a um, well, let's say they're having a bake sale, something like that. You're trying to, you know, these are parents of autistic children for the most part, and some of their members are actually autistic. So I mean, we're talking about people who know their shit. We're also talking about the fact that autism is expensive. If you have a child who's autistic and you put them in daycare, 5 years ago it was $27 an hour. So you got to be making what, $35 an hour just so that you can pay the taxes on that 25 or 27. And then you got to figure you still need to live on it. So there's an additional at least $15 on top of that. That's $50 an hour. Imagine that. Then you make too much to get any sort of government help. So you're stuck with that. It's hard. And then when you're talking about trying to educate society, a society who just wants to shove us all in the corner and punish us for existing, blame us for all their problems. We got a lot of parents who have to worry about what'll happen to their kids when they die. Well, they'll have to deal with the shit that I do. That's what happens to your autistic child when you die. Or when you decide that you don't want to be a parent. Or when you decide that even though most Americans today have to live with their parents until they're 28, or they won't be able to afford to move out and actually live on their own, but you want to throw somebody who's autistic out the door as soon as they turn 18 and say you're on your own. You can't do that. Autistic people are victimized when they're on their own. They're victimized by everyone. They will end up homeless. They won't earn enough to live on. Even if they go to work every day at their full-time job, they're going to get paid scraps compared to anyone else. When I worked for Janet Roberts, that's Jamie's grandma, we cleaned Cabela's corporate offices. I made less in 1 month than Chris Stegeman made working for her in 2 days. Of course, he was dating Jamie at the time. And Janet was kind of crazy. She tried to, what do they call it, live vicariously through her granddaughter. It was creepy. And Janet had the biggest crush on Chris. That was creepy too. I didn't stalk Natalie Bollinger. These people accused me of being a rapist and a child molester. I didn't rape or molest Natalie Bollinger. But I'm easy to victimize because nobody is going to look at it. The sheriff here broke the law. His deputies broke the law before Natalie was even killed. They did not do their jobs. They did nothing about the crimes being committed against a disabled person. Why? Because I have a penis. If a woman was going through this, there would be hoot and holler all over the place. If Natalie was going through what I'm going through, this would be worldwide a lot. Because she was a pretty girl. I just happen to have a penis. Natalie lied and said that I stalked her. And I have proven time and again with her own words that she outright lied. We were friends while I was in Virginia. And when we were no longer friends because she had a drug induced psychosis, I fucking left. I drove 1,700 miles away. I drove 1,700 miles there because she pity partied me and attempted suicide because I wasn't there fast enough. And her and her sister invited me to do a bunch of fun stuff, and it was great. But then Alicia Bollinger wanted to do something nice for me and give me a different phone because she didn't like my flip phone. My flip phone worked just fine. But not just that, she wanted me to be able to keep my number. So we transferred my number from Cricket over to, and mind you, this is, well, most of you want to pretend that I was living behind Natalie's work in Colorado. I didn't know Natalie was in Colorado. All right. I stayed behind Alicia Bollinger's work because Alicia Bollinger asked me to. And that was not in Colorado. That was in Virginia on the Virginia trip. And I have already shown with evidence that proves that Alicia and I were friends during this time too. It took hours for Alicia to get it changed over. She wanted this to be my birthday present, October 18th. She wanted to give me the birthday present a few days early. Natalie had stopped using that phone because it was making fucking messages on its own. It was sending on its own. It was calling on its own. It was busted to shit. But Alicia thought that would be a good birthday present for me. The only people I talked to were Natalie and Alicia. Oh, yeah, and one of Jerry Sparks' son's friends. He was a little racist shithead. And I argued with him. And then my phone is automatically saving parts of that argument. They call it the word prediction thing. So then I got this phone that sends messages and calls whoever I called last over and over and over again. So I got to turn it off at night. If I forget to turn it off at night, I'm screwed. It's going to do whatever it's going to do. It was fucked up. And because of the situation with that phone and the fact that that's all the communication that I had, and the fact that it was in Alicia's name now. See, before this was my phone, I would pay the monthly thing to get the card and put it on my phone, and then I could make a phone call. But no, she's changed it over to Cricket because she's working at the Cricket store at the time. Now, mind you, her sister used to work there, but she tried to commit suicide. Hey, I'm recording a live video. Should I shut it down and call you back?
Have they called you yet?
No.
Okay, I'll stay off the phone because they'll be calling you, so.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. There were some people that were supposed to call me at 9:30. Their job is maybe to protect me from these predators. Maybe. We'll see what happens. It's horrible that in the last 5 years that law enforcement has done its best to prevent any of this information from being shown in court. That they have repeatedly arrested me on crimes that were not committed. Straight up made shit up to have me incarcerated because I was trying to turn them in. They illegally prevented me from turning them in. And this is not okay. Leslie Paul broke the law so that she wouldn't have to go to jail. She works for the sheriff's department. Sheriff Scott DaCosta broke the law so he wouldn't go to prison. Deputy Jared Hahn and Cody Selhorst also. Harassment, threats, intimidation. This is not minor shit. Also, William Barr broke the law to try to hide his crimes. So did Robert Warnick. This is not okay. Robert Warnick tried pretending I threatened his kids. Leslie Paul tried pretending I threatened her kids. Tried pretending like I threatened her a lot. Tried pretending like I threatened her husband. I was illegally incarcerated because of this shit. I was trying to turn in all four of these people. All four of them. I was trying to turn in Robert Warnick in 2019. I was trying to turn in Scott DaCosta in 2018. And the recordings that I got with these people prove it. I believe I made the phone call trying to turn in Leslie Paul, aka Leslie Snell. I believe I made that phone call on the 26th of January. On the 28th, she went and filed for a protection order against me, claiming that I was threatening her and her kids. I was not given the papers until I was incarcerated. I was given the papers while incarcerated and illegally prevented from going to court. My public pretender would do nothing about it. All of these things are interrelated. All of them. These people worked together. They broke the law together to prevent me from turning them in. Obviously, since I was honest about trying to turn in all four of these people, and I did so live on YouTube, all four of these people worked together to have me illegally incarcerated and to prevent me from going to my court dates. Just like the Bollinger family, just like Clearview, just like Boulder Police Department and Adams County. All of them use the term mentally ill to pretend like I would hurt them. Meanwhile, I have been assaulted over and over and over again, and I am the one who is treated like he is a violent piece of shit. They had to omit, destroy evidence in order to do this. And they had to lie on court documents to do this. Some of the crimes that they committed: disability abuse. Disability abuse is when a person with a disability is abused physically, financially, sexually, and or psychologically due to the person having a disability. And it goes on. Exploitation of a disabled person purposely or knowingly obtains or uses or attempts to obtain or use an older person's, incapacitated person's, or developmentally disabled person's funds, assets, or property with the intent to temporarily or permanently deprive the older person, incapacitated person, or developmentally disabled person. You getting this? These are actual crimes that were committed by the sheriff of Chapel, Nebraska, and his deputies, and Robert Warnick, the registered sex offender, and Leslie Snell, and William Barr. The cops are all on the same side. When one of them fucks up, they go, oh, well, there's no reason you should lose your career over this piece of shit. So I gotta take the fucking punishment for corrupt fucking cops. Just like I have to take the punishment when Ted Bollinger raped his daughter. Just like I have to take the punishment, even though it was Tim Beeson who raped Natalie Bollinger and stole her dog and was threatening to kill himself because she wouldn't touch his pee-pee. I still take the punishment for Joseph Michael Lopez shooting Natalie in the head. Did you know that I had begged someone to shoot me in the head? Multiple people for over a year by the time she got killed. She stole my suicide. Difference between her and me is that nobody would kill me. Not even Tim Beeson. You know he threatened to kill me before Natalie died? And go after my family. By the way, I got evidence of that in screenshots. Well, you think these people who are harassing me are pretend? Then there was a situation where law enforcement and those type of folks, most of them call you from a restricted number. But also the people calling to threaten to kill me and threatening to kill my family and to harass me and to breathe into the phone all heavy. Well, those people also call from restricted numbers. Nearly every phone that I had people getting a hold of me from restricted numbers to do that. And out of all those numbers, there's only one of them that I ever gave out on the internet. One. That means that somebody who used to be friends with me was giving that number out. I've had 8 different phones since Natalie was killed. Some of them because they were broken, some of them because they were stolen, some of them because they're full of evidence. And the fact is, once you've had your service off for 30 days, somebody else might have your phone number. Now, the phone number that I had on that flip phone, as well as obviously the same number as was on the phone that Alicia gave me for my birthday. When they were pretending that I was stalking them, they're inviting me to go places and giving me gifts. Strange. Them claiming that I went to Virginia to stalk them. No! I went to Virginia to save a life. Natalie Bollinger fucking pity parted me into fucking going on that goddamn trip. She made me believe that she was going to kill herself if I was not there. Because I was late going. And there were other people that I was going there to help as well. It wasn't just Natalie. And then Maddie Boa was supposed to go on the trip with me. She was friends with Natalie and Maddie, or Natalie and Alicia. She used to have a sexual relationship with Alicia Bollinger. But she didn't get to go because she was busted with meth. And I was so proud of her at the time because she was telling me how clean she was and how Mackenzie Chapman and her were having a good relationship now because she was clean, and then she got busted with meth. Mackenzie Chapman had a kid at the time. She didn't want her kid getting taken away because the person that she's dating is on drugs or bringing drugs into the house. She doesn't want that shit around her kid, understandably. Now, there's a bunch of other charges on here: disability discrimination, um, financial exploitation, uh, financial abuse in vulnerable adults. There's a lot of shit here. Now, mind you, all of this stuff is illegal. It's even more illegal to do it to a homeless person or to a disabled person. It is actually considered a hate crime. Yes, that is correct. Leslie Snell can be charged with a hate crime for what she did. Also, lying on a court document, lying in a police report. Same thing with every single deputy here in Chapel, Nebraska, with the exception of Brent Jepson. All the rest of them can literally go to prison for what they've done. Why is it that they have been so invested in doing this? For the same reason as the ones in Colorado. If any of the rest of us assaulted 7 people in a year, we'd be on our way to prison. But Officer Waylon Lolatai, because he's a cop, he gets away with it. All 7 of the people that he assaulted were homeless. So it's fine. The homeless account for about 500% or 500,000 people in the United States. Black people account for 60 million people in the United States. Meanwhile, in 2019, 49% of those people that were killed by police were homeless. 22% of those killed by police were black. Who are the most victimized people in America? The people that are easiest for you to victimize. There are about 60 million black people in America and about 60 million disabled people in America. 51% of those who were killed by police in 2019, 51% of them were disabled. 22% of them were black. Now, although given equal numbers, the homeless have it far worse. I mean, we're talking about an over 250 to 1 ratio over black folks. It's still an amazingly high number of disabled people the police are killing, murdering. Most of these people are unarmed. Most of them. Some of them have a twitch. Having Tourette's syndrome, which I have, having Tourette's syndrome can get you killed by a police officer, and he will get away with it by saying he was afraid. Something's got to be done. A lot of people tell me, Sean, you need to just let it go. You need to let it go, let it go, let it go. You don't get to let it go. This court bullshit that they threw on me, you don't get to just not show up to fucking court. You have to go. I was illegally, in 2018, I was illegally prevented from going to 5 different court dates. This is not my first rodeo with corrupt cops. And my advocate has gone through enough of it. She knows well enough to be afraid for me because she has seen evidence. She knows that I'm telling the truth about this shit. There's a lot of people that know that I'm telling the truth about this shit, but they're afraid to come forward. Fuck it. But they also victimized me. I am the victim here. And these people victimized me because they were intimidated by the cops, or they were intimidated by other people here in Chapel, Nebraska, or they were intimidated by other homeless people in Boulder, Colorado. This shit is not okay. I'm supposed to get a call from some lawyers to try to protect myself from these predators so they can't come back and pull this same bullshit over and over and over again. The thing is that I told these people, hey, you promised to come forward. Are you still going to come forward? Yes, Sean. Well, it's been like 7 months. Why haven't you done so yet? I just don't have time. I just don't have time. You don't have time to tell the fucking truth? In 7 months, you don't have time to come forward and tell the truth? And then when they want to pretend that I'm a bad person for being pissed off, that they never came forward. Some of these people, I spent literally thousands of dollars on the things that they wanted. Literally thousands of dollars. Well, Sean, you need to do this, and 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 then I'll help you. And then I do all those things, and even though they don't go anywhere, at least I'm making the effort. And I say, hey, I did everything you asked me to. Are you going to help me now? Oh, I already helped you. Jesus fuck. The abuse that I continue to endure to this day is because people did not come forward when they should have. They knew that I was being abused, but did absolutely nothing. The Dual County Sheriff's Department was aware that I was being abused by Natalie Bollinger and her friends all the way back in January of 2017. That's nearly a year before she was shot in the head. It was January 8th, I believe. She was shot in the head December 29th. Natalie Bollinger was still alive when I offered her every penny that I had to try to get her somewhere safe. The Dual County Sheriff intimidating people, using their kids against them, that's their most common tactic. And yes, these parents do have to be afraid of having their kids taken. They do have to be afraid of being targeted by the corrupt sheriff. Several of them already have. A lot of these people, they're pissed off when I speak up. Like, hey, man, I didn't want to be targeted. You were already targeted. That's why I'm speaking up. By targeting you for helping me, they are targeting me. The same thing that the Bollingers did. Now, Natalie's aunts and all that, all these people in the Bollinger family claimed that I threatened to kill them. Now, they outright lied and kept on fanning the flames, trying to get people to harm me. And people were harming me. I was never allowed to tell my part of the story. I was forced into homelessness immediately when Natalie disappeared. Out onto the streets. There was nothing I could do but take the abuse. I went to Boulder like the cops asked me to. And then in Boulder, I had to deal with that shit from the cops and the public. When the public would come up to me and harm me, and I would try to tell the police what's going on, The police wanted to intimidate me over and over and over again. And then I got these folks getting a hold of me on the internet to harass me. People tell me, if you just get off the internet, if you just get off the internet. No, no. I will not allow these people to intimidate me into taking this abuse for the rest of my life. I have to take this abuse in real life. It's not just on the internet. And I have to deal with this because I was never allowed to face my accusers. Ever. Not once. The cops don't have to do their job if you're called mentally ill, dumbass. That's why I need someone to go in with me, dumbass. I finally was able to get a couple of people to go in with me, months and months and months after the murder. And it wasn't a murder. Natalie did ask Joseph Michael Lopez to shoot her in the head. It was horrible. And Natalie's friends and family and these internet wingnuts gang stalked me over and over and over again. I'm trying to tell my side of the story and show the evidence that I'm telling the truth so that I can put a stop to this fucking violence against me. My predators all have guns. Robert Warnick isn't even allowed to have a firearm, but he threatened to shoot me in the head. It's fine though, because the cops here don't want to do their jobs, and they don't have to when you're called mentally ill. They'll just play it off like you're schizophrenic. They'll tell the hospital that you're schizophrenic to get it on your court paperwork. And then you get treated by the hospital staff like you're schizophrenic because you're trying to tell in a bad cop. I got treated at the hospital in Longmont like I was schizophrenic because I was trying to turn in Officer Waylon Lolatai. He assaulted 6 other people in 2018. 6 other people, not just me. But it's fine, isn't it? Meanwhile, we can get the body cams from officers in Utah and post them on YouTube. But I couldn't get anyone to get the body cameras of those officers. So they got to sell whatever narrative they wanted, just like Natalie Bollinger, just like Alicia Bollinger, just like Mike Boudet. Now there are people like Rob Gavigan and Jennifer Dejowski and a few others who did things on the internet about Natalie, who told me that they would look at my side. Some of these places are supposedly actual news places. But they never did they? No, it doesn't fit their narrative. They don't want to face any flack by proving that Natalie Bollinger was the fucking predator.